Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 549th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we've got Joe Valley, a calm, mild-mannered professional. He is the author of the EXITPreneurs Playbook. Great guy. He sent me a copy of his book. I told him about my son and one of our neighbors that's good friends with my son, and how they're looking at businesses and looking at what to do with their lives, and he sent us a couple of copies. An officer and a gentleman. He focuses on the selling of online businesses, specifically online businesses. And so we get into that, how he came to focus on that niche, and how they differ from brick and mortar businesses, but also how they are the same. So if you're looking to maximize the value of your business so you can sell it, if you're looking to maybe buy a business and expand, this will be a great episode for you. So I think you'll like Joe. He brings a wealth of experience, track record that is going to. It was great speaking with him, and I just had him on a couple weeks ago. So I'm trying to tighten up the schedule here. I've been on podcasts recently. I mean, guys are like 4 months from now, it's going to go live. And, and I got super busy more than once with this show, and I've had to wait months, but I'm trying to get to the point where these go live the same month, if not, within a couple of weeks. So this is hot off the presses. If you would like some help on your business, maximizing its value so you can sell it, hit me up. Okay. Go to thesaleswhisperer.com. It's in the show notes as well. You can scroll through on whatever type of device you're on, wherever you're listening to. There's active hyperlinks in the notes, so you can click on over. And I offer a free call, and we talk about whatever is on your mind, as long as it pertains to sales, all right? Or college football, maybe bourbon, or jiu-jitsu. Okay, but that's it. It's got to be one of those, or guns. Or knives. But look, I mean, I'm drawing the line there, okay? We've got to focus. But do hit me up. I'm active on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. So wherever you hang out, drop me a line. And if I can help, I will. All right? So now let's bring on our guest. Joe Valley, author of the EXITPreneurs Playbook, all the way from North Carolina. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on, Wes. I appreciate it.
So this is quite interesting. I know some of my listeners will be saying, "Exit? What the hell? I wish I had a business big enough to sell." Are you gonna help me figure out how to get something sale worthy? So are you gonna help us with that, and then help us sell it?
I'm going to help you with anything that you need that's within my capabilities, right? So, right, we're both in our 50s. We've learned what we're capable of and what we're not capable of over the years. And
hey, your staff said you are quite capable. So that's a pretty broad, you may want to narrow that down. We only have like 45 minutes.
You know as well as I do that being a published author just means that you grinded it out for a couple of years, and I don't know, you get this thing now, and it is what it is. The funny thing, is that as a younger man, I used to think about as an entrepreneur, and that, I think a lot of sales people are entrepreneurs because that's the core driver of an entrepreneur. And that's really where I started in my entrepreneurial life, was kind of in sales. But I used to focus on the money and how much money I could make. And now that I'm, 30 years older, the focus changes, and it's to how many people I can help. And the more people that I can help, lo and behold, the more money I actually make. So it's a bit of a mind shift from a younger man to an older man today. The more people I can help in sales, or in my world, through the M&A world, helping buyers and sellers of online businesses. The end result is the more people I can help, the bottom line for my business goes up as well.
Well, didn't old Zig Ziglar tell us that?
He might have. I don't know. I read his book years ago. It's all a blur now. Him and Tony Robbins and what's the win friends and influence people? Dave somebody or other.
Carnegie.
Carnegie, Dale Carnegie. Yeah. Yep. We've read them all, right?
Oh, yeah. So the subtitle of your book is How to Sell Your Online Business for Top Dollar by Reverse Engineering Your Pathway to Success. So is that your focus, is online businesses versus like a brick and mortar, or, does it apply across the board?
Yeah. So a little bit of background. I've been self-employed since 1997. And I launched my own media buying agency back then. It was buying media on radio, short and long form radio. And then I launched my first product in 1998 and ran that on radio and did a television infomercial, then a second product as well. All the while buying media. And I launched my first 100% online business in 2005. And I stopped doing everything else. And I ran that through the best and the worst of the economy. I came out the other side just tired, right? Took it through, 07, 08, 09, came out in 010, saying, man, I got to sell this thing. And I woke up and decided to sell it. I didn't plan for it. I didn't train for it. I didn't prepare for it. I just decided to sell it. Fortunately, one of the 3 M&A advisors that I spoke to at the time said, hey, look, I think you need to wait another 6 months because things are coming back. My advice is sell in 6 months because you'll make X amount more. Yes, I can help you now, but buyers will be more interested in 6 months. So he told me to go away, and I loved him for it. And I did go away, and I prepared for it. I trained for it, got my SOPs and all these things in place that buyers would want more. And I sold it in November of 2010, then joined the team a year later. I took a year off and then joined that team of 2 at the time. It was a company called Quiet Light Brokerage. And I was the 3rd person on the team. Now we've got a total of 15 advisors, 15 support staff. I'm partners with the original founders, and we closed just under 250 million in total transactions last year. 100% online businesses, e-commerce content, SaaS, FBA, a couple of agencies, things of that nature, but no brick and mortar at all.
Cool. Why the specialty? Was it just natural because that was your space? Is it easier to assess the value, or it just is what it is, and it's where you landed?
For me, it's where I landed because I had an online business. For everybody else, it's pretty much the same. Everybody on the team has built, bought, or sold their own online business. And because of that, they're not geographically hindered in any way, shape, or form. We've got people all over the country, somebody over in the UK and somebody in Tbilisi, Georgia. If we had brick and mortar presences as well, it'd be a royal pain in the ass, to be honest with you, Wes. We have no interest in it whatsoever. We're in an incredible space that's growing like crazy. We've grown 55% a year on average over the last 4 years. Last year, we grew 85%. And it's funny because, I'm on the sales podcast and we don't sell, in my view. We just present good quality factual information to intelligent people and let them make a decision. And then we help them with the process, this being the buyers and the sellers. We technically represent the seller, but we don't sell. We're not salespeople. We are advisors and we present information and then we help more than anything else. It's a different approach.
Is it different though?
Compared to our competition, absolutely. They like my first phone call in 2010, in the spring of 2010. Again, it was 3 different M&A advisors. 2 of them were just trying to get their hooks into me for a commission, where Mark wasn't at all. So we kind of consider ourselves an education company first and foremost, and we happen to do M&A deals in the online space only.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that you are what I would call a professional salesperson instead of a traditional salesperson.
I'd say you're right.
I'm going to put that on loop.
You're right.
I say you're right. I'm going to send that to my kids. And it's going to be on my
send
website.
It to your wife.
I'd say you're right. I mean, it really is the difference. Because we all, we make fun of used car salesmen and attorneys and blah, blah, blah. But when you need a car or you need an attorney, you're sure happy to have a good one that you can reach out to. And
Mm-hmm.
they're good because of the way they treat you, right? Their bedside manner is not a shark. They are trying to help. I think the profession of sales has just gotten a bad reputation from the Glenn Ross's of the world. And so that's just good marketing, right? I think people look for a shortcut and they just think that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this hard close versus let me tell this guy no, come back to me in 6 months. That's just
Yeah, and it works. It's funny. I remember, prior to my home office here, I had an office space, and there was this guy Kevin across the hall from me, and he was definitely not. I mean, he made a living as a salesperson, but I could tell in desperate times when he was pitching a little too hard, and he'd ask, "Hey, how did that sound?" I'd be like, "Sounded like you're pitching kind of hard. You sounded kind of desperate." So he was maturing and growing with it. But it was a desperate situation for him. He was struggling financially, and that made it really hard, which is why we only focus on people that are pretty well off as advisors. They've already had their financial successes in life. It's a challenge, though, as a salesperson to understand that aspect of it and be patient and build relationships. But I'm sure that's what you talk about every day.
Yeah. And it can be tough. If you're a quota carrying W-2 salesperson, you may have some lean times. You may have to change companies a couple of times before you find someone that jives with this, because they're just going to put pressure on you. And I've worked in high tech for companies, literally telling me, the last day of the quarter to fly halfway across the country and sit in somebody's lobby, to try to get the sale. And fortunately, on that literal one, I had a good boss that wouldn't play that game, kind of ran some interference for me. But one time I had to fly up. I didn't go sit in the guy's lobby, though, because I had to show it on my expense account. I had to show the ticket, the hotel, the meals, the rental car. But I just sat in my hotel room on the last day of the quarter and flew back home. He just said, he didn't come in. He couldn't get him to sign. I worked at that company 6 months.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't sound like a very long tenure.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, they do exist, the pressure cookers, but the realistic ones exist as well. You just gotta look for them, and find those. In your, you mentioned like you took some time before you sold, put together some SOPs. Were you just kind of winging it before then? Just like you were the owner, you just kind of knew how everything was done. You just did it. And did that give you time to put some documentation in place that helped raise your valuation?
Yeah, no doubt. Look, I'm the perfect example of the typical entrepreneur, right? You bootstrap, you pull this business together, you run it for, a half a decade, and you get kind of sick of it. And you want to move on to your next adventure, but you never really thought you'd sell it because you didn't train for it or plan for it. Therefore, I'd say probably the number's getting lower and lower now. It used to be 60, 70, 80% of the entrepreneurs that I would talk to didn't have proper accounting software using QuickBooks or Xero. Second to that, they didn't do accrual accounting. This is all nauseating, boring stuff, but it's kind of critical if you're going to sell your business. You have to have good financial documentation. I used QuickBooks, but I really didn't do accrual accounting, and I didn't outsource it, right? I'm a big advocate of outsourcing the e-commerce bookkeeping to an e-commerce bookkeeping agency. It's cheap, right? Anywhere from $100 to $1,000, and it's done right for you. This is on a monthly basis, depending upon the size of the business. But no, I didn't do any of the things that I teach now, or I coach, or whatever I do these days. You have to get serious about your business. If you want to exit, first you need to set a goal and reverse engineer a path to it. And the way to do that is to figure out what the current value is. If you don't know how close or how far you are from that exit goal in dollars, you don't know how long it's going to take to get there. You don't know if it's a pipe dream or if it's a reality. So you've got to set those goals first and then figure out how close you are to them with the proper valuation of your business.
Yep. Amen. So are people reaching out to you? Do you have feelers out? People coming to you, like what's a first date look like in your world?
The first date is a discovery call. It's 45 minutes to an hour talking about somebody's business, learning the ins and outs of it, how old it is, trying to get a feel for if they do, proper documentation. We kind of hone in on any business. I tell you what buyers are looking for any business, for anybody that's listening that has a business that could be sellable someday. Buyers are going to look at 4 things primarily, really 5. So it's going to be risk, growth, transferability, and documentation. So we're talking about documentation aspect of it, but they're going to look at the risk component of the business as well and think about, is it a single channel operation? That's risk as opposed to multiple channel. A single channel might be Amazon FBA business owners, right? They just sell on Amazon. They don't sell on Shopify. They don't have recurring revenue. So the business might be young. If it's less than 24 months old, if it's only doing $100,000 a year in discretionary earnings, which is what some people call profit, it's a younger, smaller business. Those actually come with higher risk, right? We talked a little bit before we record. You've got some friends that are thinking about buying an online business. The smaller the business is, the younger it is, the greater the risk. Most people say, yeah, I don't want to risk too much, so I'm going to buy something small. That's actually riskier. You want to buy something larger that's more well-established with, strong growth, diverse revenue streams, and without question, transferable, right? It goes without saying that if the assets of the business that drive the revenue are not transferable, you do not have a sellable business.
So, but is that first call, or are you fielding the calls? Are you
No,
in a position?
I don't personally anymore.
Well,
I've got a team
I
of
mean,
15
your business.
advisors.
Like, are people typically finding you saying, "Hey, can you help me sell?" Or are y'all out there?
No, we don't. Yeah, they find us.
Okay.
They find us. We've been at this since 2007. We probably do 300 or 400 valuation calls a month, or at least we get that many leads a month.
Yeah.
A lot of those are businesses that might be too small to sell,
right,
and they were just curious and don't follow up with the actual valuation call. The valuation call is free. It's having conversations. For us, the more conversations we have, the more people we help. The more people we help, the more our business grows.
Right.
But they find us because we've been at it since 2007. If anybody is thinking about buying or selling an online business, it would be hard not to find Quiet Light.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So if somebody is looking to buy, like what is typical? Are SBA loans easy enough to get? Do owners carry some of the financing? Like, how can people get this done in a reasonable manner?
Yeah. So buying with an SBA loan is fantastic, right? Because generally you're just putting 10% down and then the balance is financed over 10 years. They'll even give you working capital for inventory and growth and things of that nature. The problem, though, with buying an online business with an SBA loan is that the majority of them at this point may not be SBA eligible. They might be too young, or they commingled their finances and they're not willing to do the work to separate them out with another business that they have. Remember, these entrepreneurs initially bootstrapped a business and then they started another one and it was all under one bank account or one, whatever it might be, one tax return. You have to actually separate those out in order to do an SBA loan. And you have to qualify for it personally. Both the business and the buyer have to qualify for the SBA loan. So we always start with the business itself, right? We do the valuation, and if it's checks enough boxes, is it 3 years old? Is it big enough? Is it not commingled? Are the financials in good order? If all of that is true, then we will share it before we list it for sale. We will share it with an SBA lender. There's a great one called e-commerce lending down in Florida, Steven Spear, e-com lending. They're kind of like an SBA broker. They work with a lot of different banks, but they'll do the initial valuation on the businesses to see if it's going to qualify for an SBA loan. And if it is, then we list it with SBA pre-qualified. And that really just, again, helps the buyers in their path to buying a business. If somebody is only looking for an SBA pre-qualified business, they know that it's going to say SBA pre-qualified or it's not. And if it's not, then there's still plenty of other buyers for it. But if you can buy with an SBA loan, then good on you, because you're only putting 10% down. It's financed over 10 years, and the interest rate's 5.5%, 6%.
What percentage of the deals you do end up being SBA?
I'm guessing at this point, but I think in 2021 it was less than 10 or 15%.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah. And our average transaction size, or median transaction size, was 1.8 million. And even with that, the majority are mostly cash deals. There's a lot of buyers out there with a lot of money. And that's the other challenge with SBA buyers, is that you are competing against cash buyers.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of positive things to being an SBA buyer. Number one, as a seller, I think I've seen one SBA deal fall through in my personal transactions. I've personally closed about 100 million in transactions, and I think I've only had one fall through. So pretty good chance that it's going to close. It takes longer to close though, right? It's going to take an extra 30 to 45 days to close than a cash deal. The upside for the seller is that you get to hold your business for an extra 30 to 45 days and make more money. The downside is that you get to stress for an extra 30 to 45 days. And that's challenging for some people to accept. It's very emotional when people are selling their business. Big part of our job is just managing people's emotions and expectations, just like in the sales process.
Yeah. So you're typically representing the sellers. So if I wanted to buy, do I need to find someone like you to represent me on the buyer side?
Yeah, it would be great if you could, but they're not really out there. If they are, it's far and few in between. So one of the things that we have to do, because there are really no buy-side brokers, right, is we have to help the buyer just as much as the seller. Technically, we represent the seller, but we have to help the buyer. And so the first step in that, if you're selling your business, Wes, we're going to have an in-depth conversation about your business. We're going to focus in on, the risk, the growth, the transferability, the documentation, all the things I know that buyers are going to look for. I'm going to have a detailed P&L available and presented with lots of detail. Of course, everybody's signing a non-disclosure agreement before they see this, but my job, the job of a good M&A advisor, is to ask every question a potential buyer is going to ask. And in our case, we ask that in writing, and we put it in writing as part of the package to help you, the buyer, sort of short circuit your process of trying to understand the value of the business that we're presenting to you.
I know my son was, he was asking, why would somebody sell like a good business? And we work with some guys, they say there's a pig for every barn. Crude way of saying it's like people have their reasons. Like you were saying, sometimes entrepreneurs just get bored. Maybe there's partners have a falling out, whatever. But I mean, what do you say to people? It's like this thing, if it's so worth buying, like I'm gonna throw 1.8 million at it. Like, why wouldn't they just keep it if it's worth 1.8 million and throwing off good cash?
Well, there's lots of reasons. In my personal situation, I was just tired of it. I've been doing it for long enough. I needed to move on. That's the entrepreneurial affliction, right? You get shiny object syndrome. You say, I can do that. And you start to do it. And then you forget about this over here. You have to, if you're fortunate enough, it hasn't, been destroyed by your avoiding it, ignoring it, and it's still a sellable asset. The other part is that with most businesses that are not acquired, right? When you acquire a business, you've got, you buy it in such a way that it's got immediate cash flow. With most businesses that are bootstrapped, in the first 24 to 48 months, you're not making a whole lot of dough. And the vast majority of money that you make, actually, this is true for most businesses, the vast majority of money that someone makes is when they sell the business. And that goes for all types of businesses in all shapes and sizes. Even if you want to talk about Elon Musk, right? He sold his business because he went public. That's where he made his billions of dollars. The same with Jeff Bezos and everybody else that we want to talk about. They sold, they went public. with an entrepreneur, if they have a physical product business, that's growing like crazy in the first 24 to 36 months. They're just trying to keep up with inventory. It may be kicking off. It may have, $200,000 in discretionary earnings, right? On paper, on discretionary earnings. But if they've got $250,000 worth of inventory on hand, that's, money that's sitting over there in inventory, not in their bank account. So most people don't take a whole lot of money out of the business in the first 24 to 36 months. They grow it, they get it to a point where they can exit, and then they do it again. So the acquisition entrepreneur is that entrepreneur that is not the bootstrap entrepreneur. They can buy the business and take it to the next level, whereas the bootstrap entrepreneur just says, I can do that, and gets an idea together and gets it off and running. But they don't make a whole lot of money in the first 24 to 36 months. That's why they sell.
So who are these typical buyers? Are they already in an industry and they're just looking to expand maybe into a region, or maybe there's a major client they have, or are these guys like having a basket of companies and they're just, lack of a better term, a hodgepodge of companies? So,
in 2021, about 30% of buyers that bought the Quiet Light businesses, again, just under $250 million in transactions, they were FBA aggregators. Not familiar. Are you familiar with the term FBA aggregators?
A little bit, right. But I know my listeners probably are not.
So these are kind of like private equity firms, but their sole focus is buying fulfilled by Amazon businesses. They've raised some working capital, billions of dollars plus debt. Some of them have raised literally billions of dollars to buy up Amazon-based businesses. And this is new in the last 5 years, really took off in the last 2.5 years or so. The biggest one out there is called Thrasio, thras.io. They'll probably go public in the next 12 to 24 months. And then there's another, group of 10 that have also raised collectively several $billion. So they've bought about 30%. And then the other 70% is a combination of, yes, private equity firms that are buying one-off online businesses, but then probably at least 50% of the transactions that are sold to individual people that are either buying through SBA loans or simply buying, a first, second, or third business for their own, lifestyle or for their portfolio. So it's a combination of everyone. A lot of people that want to leave the corporate world, not be in sales anymore, and they've saved up over the years, or they want to roll over their 401k and make an investment so that they can get the hell out of the north and go south in the wintertime or work from wherever they want. They'd be buyers of online businesses as well. The term is now acquisition entrepreneurship. It's coined by a guy named Walker Deibel, who wrote a book called Buy Then Build.
Acquisition entrepreneurship. All
yep.
Right. Buy then.
It's being taught in Harvard and other MBA business schools now, acquisition entrepreneurship.
Interesting. How many of these buyers, though, I can imagine it could be tough, right? If you've got a conscience and somebody's showing up that maybe has no reason, maybe they have more money than sense, are you ever talking them back? Like,
hell yes. Personally, absolutely. In situations where I had a situation where we had a couple of kids that were, fresh out of Harvard MBA, and they had some parental money to, become acquisition entrepreneurs. And the listing that I had at that particular time was also SBA pre-qualified, and they wanted to do it that way. They were declined because they had no operational experience. They were too much of a risk. And I've told other people that, want to jump into this space, but struggle to fill out an online form to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Like, if you can't accomplish that, Bob, then this is not the path you want to go down. And then a lot of people struggle with the type of online business to buy, right? Whether it's a content site, a SaaS business, physical product e-commerce business, an FBA business. It depends upon people's background and experience, but I think you should like what you're doing, first of all. So if you're a man that likes ice hockey, you probably shouldn't be selling ballerina shoes online. because there are going to be tough days, just like in sales. There's going to be tough days, weeks, months, and years, and you kind of have to have a passion for what you're doing in order to get through those times. So try to match somebody that's coming to buy a business with something that is going to be a good fit for them, and making sure that they've got some experience. If they have no experience but lots of money, there's things that they should ask for in the transaction. The typical transaction comes with a training and transition period, right? So if I'm selling you a business, Wes, I'm going to stick around for 3 months and give you up to 40 hours of my time over that 3-month period. And in fact, I'll probably, as an advisor, I'm going to suggest, let's hold some money back in escrow during that training and transition period, just to make sure that I stick around, that type of thing. If you have no experience and the business is a little more complex, you're going to want to negotiate a little bit more of that time. So your son, for instance, right? Up to 40 hours over the first 90 days. Let's get another 40 hours over the following 90 days. He's not going to use it, but it'll give him peace of mind. And hold back some money, release, hold back 20%. So 10% will be released in 90 days. Another 10% will be released in 180 days. It's a carrot to keep that seller around to help with that training and transition period.
Yeah. Are we in a crazy world right now? I mean, the answer is yes. Is it too crazy for this, right? I see, we're talking about, doing business in California, what a mess that is right now, but we got COVID, we've got supply chain, we've got convoys. Should people just hold on to their cash, bury it in the mattress, go buy gold, Bitcoin, just wait? Or there's just always going to be needed. And as long as you've got a brain, you can grow it. Yeah.
It is a crazy world that we're in right now. Our closed transactions grew 85% in 2021 over 2020. And 2020 was not a bad year. We had a 3-week period in March of 2020 where the world was terrified, but then reality sunk in. And guess what? Owning an online business is probably the best space to be in if you're in the middle of COVID. I don't have a crystal ball, but the maturity process over the last decade of online businesses it's grown tremendously, right? A decade ago in 2012, actually 2013 was my first full calendar year. I closed 23 transactions. I think the average transaction size, for that year across the company might have been $125,000, but I was doing deals in the $5, $10, $15, $20,000 range as well. And a lot of those deals were sold by what I would call kids today, right? They didn't have a ton of experience. They built a content site and, essentially flipped it. We're in a completely different world now. This is an industry where you say, I own an online business. People go, oh, okay, I understand what that is. A decade ago, really, people didn't understand the value in it. They thought it was all risk and that it wasn't a real business because there were no real hard assets to it. I don't see that changing, Wes. If we look out another decade, I think that the space that I'm in the M&A world, specifically with online businesses, we're going to look back and we're going to say 2022, we were in our infancy. Now I say that about 2012. Our transaction size has grown tenfold. Our team and everything has grown tenfold. And we're turning away business. There's more buyers than there are sellers. We had an average of 3.75, I think 3.77 offers on every listing, 62% sold at or over asking price. But they're still not priced too high. It's not like real estate, right? If you buy something today, like an FBA, fulfilled by Amazon business, today you can see an average transaction value for something, let's say it's doing $300,000 in discretionary earnings. It's probably selling in a multiple range of 3 to 4 times, right? So 900 to 1.2 million plus inventory. If you go back 4 or 5 years ago, there's no way that would have sold for anywhere over 3. It probably would have been 2.5 to 2.75. And that just means that you're going to earn your money back if all things are flat no further growth, if all things are flat, you're going to earn your money back in 2.5 years or 3 or 4, depending upon the multiple. The reality is these younger businesses are growing like crazy. If it's growing 25% year over year, you can buy it at a 4-time multiple, but you're making money back at 2.7. So it's still a very, very good investment. It's not one that's passive, though. You do work it. So you're buying, in a sense, you're buying a job, but one with complete freedom and flexibility, and one that you can grow and then exit as well. So I don't think the end is near. I think that we're still at the infancy of it.
All right. You sold me. Look, you say you're not in sales. You just sold me, man. Or did you educate me?
I think I don't know, whatever the hell I did. I get on my horse for a while. Sorry about
that. How many of your clients do you actually meet? Is it all done remote?
It's a good question. Of course, the last 24 months, it's been, mostly remote. It's most often remote. I feel like I meet them now, right? Like I feel like I've met you now, right? Because we see each other. I see your home office there. You see mine. Even though I think I need to change it because you're not the first one that thought this was my living room, right? It's my home office.
Hey,
but
no, that's fine. That's not a bad thing. I was just like, man, you must have quiet. I've got this thing insulated. I've got soundproofing on my walls, on my door. But I got 7 kids and a dog.
I don't have 7 kids, right? I've got 2 and 2 dogs. But it's an interesting space to be in. Let's just put it that way. And the future is bright, I guess.
Yeah, very cool. And that's good to hear. There's obviously enough bad news. What they say, bad news can make it around the world before good news can get out of bed. So it's nice to talk to people that are optimistic, that are seeing things growing, that are seeing entrepreneurship is alive and well. Do you have any thoughts on this whole metaverse? And I just had a guy interviewed yesterday I've known for years. He's in the crypto gaming space. He's telling me about, people are making money. They're paid to play video games in the crypto space, in the metaverse. There's going to be a whole, if it grows like Facebook wants it to, there's going to be an online business there. I guess you can create and sell digital clothing and digital real estate. And so that's an online business, right?
Well, I don't understand the NFTs and the value of them. So,
it's all tulip bulbs, man. Don't you know anything?
I don't know Jack. Yeah. So one of the things that I've learned about myself over the years is that I do best when I focus on one thing. I've tried to run multiple businesses. I've tried to do multitasking in a given day and so on and so forth. And I do best when I focus on one thing. And so my one thing, I'm promoting the book, but it's all in line with, what I do at Quiet Light. I personally pay no attention to crypto. I know that half my team are crypto millionaires or Tesla millionaires, right? Because they bought Tesla shares early on and they drive these Tesla cars. I actually got a guy that just bought a Tesla Plaid and is, it's like stuck in the garage because he's got 4 kids and bikes all around it. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Metaverse, sure. Look, I just stick to what I know though, which is helping, online entrepreneurs in the, let's call it $250,000 to $25 million range in terms of exits, and helping them and helping buyers as well. Just sharing that information. I don't have any crystal balls on the metaverse and, crypto gaming and things of that nature.
Very nice. So speaking of which, here's my little 7-year-old. She sticks her head through the door and she does this. Are you on a call, Daddy? I'm like, am I talking to myself, baby? But it's the joy of working for yourself, right? I can just leave that in the show.
Yeah. It's a funny thing, in the world that I live in, and probably most of the people that are listening, we don't, as you say, get to meet people face to face as much. I don't get to meet clients as much. When we go to events, we get a chance to meet them. Occasionally, there might be somebody here in Charlotte that I grab coffee with that's in the world that I'm in. But even with my team, we've got a team of 15 advisors now. We've never all been in one place at the same time. It may happen in May. We're all going to the Kentucky Derby, or Most of us are.
Nice.
And we may all meet there. But we've never, like, I've been business partners with my business partner for, I've been on the part of the team for a decade now. I've never met his wife. I've never seen his wife, and he's married and has 8 children. And it's almost like a game that we play now to make sure that, our spouses are never on our screens or anything like that. He lives in Minnesota. I live in North Carolina. So, I'm not going to Minnesota, unless it's July or August, but it's certainly a different world that we live in, and making different connections it's different than it was a decade ago, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I've worked from home since the summer of 2000, and I've had my own business since 2006, and, probably sold 1,000 accounts in 28 countries in that time, just speaking software alone and doing trainings. I mean, I was using Skype back in the day, and is it Aweber or WebEx?
Mm-hmm.
WebEx. I would find whatever tool was free back then, right, just to keep costs down. But I would do the onboarding and the training, all remotely. I've probably met 3% of my clients in since 2006, and most of the time when I do meet them, it's because we meet at a conference. Yeah,
same here.
So I've been doing that now for 16 years, like when COVID hit, we had homeschooled for many years, and our older kids would go to the local high school, but my oldest daughter didn't. We homeschooled her all the way through high school. So a couple of them had to come back home, but like we barely missed a beat, It was with
COVID, didn't change a thing for you.
Yeah.
Same here. Didn't change a thing for us either.
Just kept rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
So your book is out, the EXITpreneur's Playbook: How to Sell Your Online Business for Top Dollar by Reverse Engineering Your Pathway to Success. And you've made a landing page for us, right?
I have. It is exitpreneur.io/the sales podcast. My recommendation, and you can get a digital copy of the book. It's a real hardcover book. The digital version is easy, right? You can read it on your Kindle, iBook, Nook, or download the PDF to your computer and read it there. My recommendation for your audience would be to think about it from a buyer's perspective, right? Your son, for instance, is a potential buyer of an online business. This is essentially the playbook for the sellers. This is what sellers need to do in order to put their business in great shape to sell it for maximum value. And there's lots of things in there that I know that if they're selling on their own or they've got a bad advisor, they don't do. If you're buying an online business, if this is a space you want to get into, 2 books. This one, The EXITpreneur's Playbook, and the other one, Buy Then Build by Walker Dybel. These 2 books will help you become an acquisition entrepreneur and buy a business the right way, in terms of understanding what you are buying, the right value, the right multiple, and figuring out its strengths and weaknesses. Either of those would be a great purchase for your audience, I think. I'm going to pull that up, Buy Then Build. So I'll link to that in the show notes, and I'm linking to your book as well. So I appreciate the recommendation. My pleasure.
Now I'm going to go get beat up for an hour and a half.
Good luck.
But if I'm lucky, I'll beat them up.
I'm sure you will. Got the feeling you're a tough guy.
Yeah, but I fight a lot of tough guys. I'm getting older, man. I hate to admit it. I'm a little stiffer, a little slower, a little less cardio than these young bucks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu is a crazy sport. So go ahead. I recommend you get started now. Don't wait. We got one guy, he just got his black belt. He started at 61, got his black belt at 71.
Damn. It's dedication.
It's dedication.
The furthest I've gone is Taekwondo. My kids took it. I got involved a little bit, and I got to a point where I thought I was kind of tough. And then, this older gentleman that was shorter than me and a lot rounder than me put his foot in my ribs inside of, 1/10 of a second and put me on the ground. And I realized that I was not all that tough.
Well, maybe in that world you're not, but for the general public, I remember a guy told me, he said, you train jiu-jitsu for 6 months. You can pretty much handle anyone you meet that is untrained. So just a typical, muscle bound, meathead, stumbling drunk on the beach, whatever. And And it's true. So if you have some training, it's better than not having training. But I've learned in this, like, it's humbling, and I realize it's a good thing I just keep my mouth shut out on the streets, because jiu-jitsu is such a crazy thing. And like that guy you're talking about, there's some stone cold killers that don't look like stone cold killers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they flip a switch. You're like on your back. You're saying, what just happened? My mind does not compute.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Crazy. So, I didn't want to ask. So why the Kentucky Derby? Who's the horse?
My business partner chose it. He and the CMO, and they wanted to go. And all of a sudden, I think I said yes. I don't recall saying yes, but now we're all going to the Kentucky Derby. We've got a booth or a room or whatever it is, and the whole team's going to go. So
nice.
Yeah.
I just went to the Phoenix Open, the Waste Management Open, a couple of weeks ago.
I might have enjoyed that more, to be honest with you. I'm trying to watch horse stuff on TV, and it's hard to follow.
Yeah, I do want to go to that once. My wife's uncle, they're big into it, and they would have a viewing party. My mother-in-law would fly up there to Sacramento, and I always laugh. It's like, that one race is what, 2 minutes? So it's like all this pomp and circumstance building up. 2 minutes. But I know all the other races they say are exciting, but yeah.
I actually won't be there for the actual Derby. I'm flying in. Everybody's going to be there. And then I'm flying back because my son's doing track and it's a conference meet. And I'd rather see that than the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, for sure.
You know how that is.
I know. Get your priorities straight. That's good.
Yep.
Joe Valley from North Carolina. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been great.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Wes.
All right, man. Have a great day.
You too.
I love how he opened with, he used to focus on the money, but now he focuses on how many people he can help. And I think a lot of us go through this in life. I know when I got into sales, I got into it because I wanted to make more money. I left the Air Force because I wanted to be paid according to my production, not my time and grade. And I was money motivated. I'm still money motivated, but I'm motivated by the freedom that the money brings me, the influence, the people that I can help. But it's never about the money for me. Certainly not for a long, long time. I love how he focuses on where he has experience, right? He had an online business, so that's who he helps. I love how they're growing virtually, right? Everybody's remote. He hasn't even met all the people, or he's met them, but hasn't had everybody in the same place at one time. It's a new world. I have had assistants working for me around the world, chat with them every day, never met them. I've had assistants in the Philippines, full access to my credit cards, billing, website, hosting, GoDaddy. I mean, everything, and just had great luck. I've had a guy in Romania help me with my book, with the digital version of my first book. People around the world, and most of my clients I've never met, and that was before COVID made working from home cool. So it's certainly doable. I've worked from home since June of 2000. I hope you're getting comfortable working virtually, but there is something about being in person. I've got a new client here locally. I'll be working intensely with them. When I bring on a new client, typically we sign an initial 90-day agreement, and we work hard for those 90 days. It's the uncovering, the discovery, really digging deep. Sometimes customers are slow to open up for whatever reason, but creating the unique qualities, finding those unique qualities, getting it out, getting it documented, then figuring out how best to leverage it, which medium, all right, create that powerful message, deliver it in a powerful manner. And then after that, if we want to keep working together, it drops to a fraction of the cost on a monthly basis. And then, based on how you grow, determines my raise. Okay, so if you're paying me $2,000 a month and your business grows 10%, then the next year I'm paid $2,200 a month. and we just keep on keeping on. But working together in person, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't done a lot of face-to-face, be in the same room with people, obviously, for a couple of years, but I haven't done a whole lot of it in many, many years. I would do some short sprints with folks. They would fly in, we'd meet in Phoenix, what have you. But, to work with a local company, there is a different chemistry, a different energy. So don't shy away from it, but also don't think that's the only way. As Joe has shown, you can grow a great business by being remote. But I hope you like this. Get his book. It's I started going through it. My son really likes it. He's already gone through most of it, and he and his buddy are looking at that, looking for things to do. So the EXITPreneur's Playbook: How to Sell Your Online Business for Top Dollar by Reverse Engineering Your Pathway to Success. Get you some, and then get you some Make Every Sale, all right, and get you some 79stories.info. I'll send you a signed copy of my book as well. Thanks for listening. Now go sell something.